Imagine for a moment that every drop of alcohol you drink doesn't just affect your body. It feeds on something much deeper, something invisible, something sacred, your spirit. From the outside, alcohol looks like a harmless escape, a social lubricant, a moment of pleasure, a way to forget pain. But beneath the illusion, a darker truth hides. Alcohol does not merely dull your senses, it consumes your inner flame. It disconnects you from your higher self, your divine essence, and slowly begins to devour your soul. Think about it. Why do ancient spiritual traditions, from the Essenes to Buddhist monks, from the yogis of India to the initiates of Egypt, forbid the use of intoxicants? Because they knew what modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Alcohol lowers your vibration, weakens your aura, and makes you more vulnerable to energies and entities that thrive on human despair. Before we go deeper into this hidden truth, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because what you're about to discover could change the way you see not only alcohol, but yourself, your purpose, and the invisible war for your energy that takes place every single day. Let's begin with a shocking realization. Alcohol has been used throughout history as a spiritual weapon. Ancient texts from Sumeria to Greece describe fermented drinks as both sacred and dangerous, a double-edged sword. The gods were said to grant wine as a gift, but those who abused it were cursed with madness, decay, and loss of divine connection. The word spirits itself, used to describe alcohol, is no coincidence. In alchemical terms, spirits referred to volatile essences that could alter reality. And when we ingest them, they alter ours. The philosopher Rudolf Steiner warned that alcohol tears the etheric body from the physical, leaving the human being exposed to destructive forces. In modern terms, that means alcohol separates your consciousness from your life energy. It disconnects the spiritual blueprint that keeps your mind, body, and soul in harmony. Have you ever wondered why people under the influence act in ways they later regret? Saying things they would never say, doing things that betray their own values? That's not just intoxication, that's possession, a temporary loss of control over one's spiritual vehicle. In esoteric traditions, this state was seen as a fracture, a moment where the soul's light weakens and darker energies slip in. The Egyptians called these energies the eaters of the ka, referring to entities that feed on human life force. The more you drink, the more access they gain. And this isn't only symbolic. Science supports part of this ancient warning. Alcohol affects the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain, and the prefrontal cortex, the center of judgment and higher reasoning. In spiritual terms, it silences the voice of the higher self and amplifies the instincts of the lower self, the shadow, the animal, the chaotic aspect of human nature. Now imagine doing that repeatedly, over years. Each drink carves a little distance between you and your higher vibration. The ancient mystics said that your soul has a frequency, a tone, and alcohol detunes that sacred note. When your vibration falls, you become magnetically aligned with lower energies. Anxiety, guilt, shame, emptiness. That's why the hangover isn't just physical, it's spiritual. You wake up feeling hollow because your light has been dimmed. Modern culture celebrates alcohol as freedom, but what if it's the opposite? What if it's a subtle form of slavery, a way to keep the collective spirit of humanity asleep? Because a society disconnected from its inner fire is easier to control. People who can't feel their own divinity will always seek false light outside themselves. Think about how alcohol is marketed. Happiness in a bottle, courage in a glass, connection through intoxication. Yet every sip sells you a counterfeit version of what already exists inside you. The courage, the joy, the connection, they are your natural spiritual states. Alcohol doesn't create them. It imitates them and steals your energy in the process. The great mystic Gurdjieff once said that most humans live in a state of waking sleep. Alcohol deepens that sleep. It turns off the inner observer, the part of you that is aware, awake, and divine. That's why those under the influence often say, "I don't remember what happened." The memory gap is not just neurological, it's the soul's temporary withdrawal. But there is something even more profound, something most people never realize. The act of drinking doesn't just affect you, it leaves a mark on your energetic lineage. Your children, your relationships, even your dreams carry echoes of your vibration. When you drink, you're not only numbing your pain, You're passing the residue of disconnection to future generations. So ask yourself, how much of your suffering is truly yours, and how much is inherited from generations who drowned their spirit in silence and wine? In the next part, we will go deeper into the metaphysical mechanisms of how alcohol feeds on your life energy and the hidden forces that benefit from it. And most importantly, we'll uncover how to reclaim your spiritual sovereignty, reignite your inner fire, and cleanse the residue alcohol leaves in your energetic field. Because what you'll hear next might forever change how you see not just alcohol, but the entire spiritual battlefield of modern life. There is a forgotten truth that ancient mystics tried to warn us about. Every substance that alters consciousness also alters the geometry of your soul. Alcohol doesn't just blur your mind. It distorts the delicate, energetic patterns that hold your spirit together. To understand this, imagine your soul as a luminous field made of sacred patterns, spirals, waves, and frequencies, vibrating in perfect harmony. This field connects you to the source, to your intuition, and to the flow of life itself. But when alcohol enters your system, it scrambles those frequencies. It creates interference. The light that once moved smoothly begins to flicker. The aura, once radiant, begins to thin. Spiritual healers across cultures have seen this phenomenon for millennia. In shamanic traditions of South America, for example, shamans describe alcohol as a spirit of chaos, an entity that feeds on disconnection. The Shipibo people call it a predator spirit, one that attaches to those who consume it and slowly drains their vital force or niwi. In their cosmology, this isn't metaphorical. They say that alcohol literally opens the gates for parasitic energies to attach themselves to the human energy field. Even the word intoxicated reveals the truth. Toxikon in Greek means poison. To be intoxicated means to be poisoned. And when your body is poisoned, your energy body weakens. Your spiritual immune system collapses. You become porous, and energies that normally couldn't reach you start to find their way in. Think about the moments when people drink. After pain, heartbreak, loneliness, or failure, alcohol promises relief, but it delivers disconnection. It dulls pain temporarily, while strengthening the energetic chains that keep you trapped in that pain. The more you drink to forget, the more you anchor your suffering in the energetic blueprint of your soul. It's like pouring gasoline over your spiritual wounds. In Hermetic philosophy, this is explained through the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. When alcohol corrupts the chemistry of the body, it simultaneously corrupts the vibrations of the spirit. The lower self begins to dominate, while the higher self, your divine intelligence, retreats. You become reactive, impulsive, disconnected from empathy and truth. And here lies the tragedy. Society normalizes this state. Entire cultures are built around alcohol consumption. Festivals, friendships, even love stories begin and end with a drink. It has become a ritual, but a ritual of unconsciousness. The mystic Osho once said that modern people have replaced sacred rituals of awakening with mechanical habits of sleep. Drinking is one of those habits, a collective hypnosis disguised as pleasure. But ask yourself this: why is alcohol the only drug universally accepted, promoted, and celebrated? Why do governments ban sacred plants that expand consciousness while glorifying the one substance that numbs it? Could it be that a numb population is easier to control than an awakened one? This isn't conspiracy, it's energetic reality. When you drink, you lower your vibrational state. When masses of people do this collectively, the frequency of entire cities, nations, and civilizations drops. Fear, confusion, and disconnection become the norm, and those who thrive on chaos, both human and non-human, gain strength. The Gnostic texts speak of archons, parasitic forces that feed on the emotional energy of humans. They cannot generate light on their own. They survive by consuming the energy of those who have forgotten who they are. Alcohol, in this sense, becomes the perfect tool for them. It makes the human vessel open, confused, and energetically leaking. You might think you're having a good time, but in the unseen dimensions, your light is being harvested. Let's pause and ask a simple but profound question. What happens to the soul during intoxication? According to clairvoyants and energy healers, the astral body, the energetic double that surrounds your physical form, slightly detaches during alcohol consumption. It floats just a few inches above the body, like a balloon on a string. This separation creates a gap between your consciousness and your physical vehicle. In that gap, other influences can enter. That's why, under the influence, people often act like someone else, because, in a sense, they are. When the astral body detaches too frequently, it begins to forget alignment. It no longer fits perfectly with the physical form. The person starts feeling off, ungrounded, anxious, or empty, even when sober. Over time, this becomes a permanent state, the feeling of being disconnected from oneself. That's not depression, it's spiritual dislocation. The good news is that the spirit never fully dies. Even if buried under years of numbness, it waits patiently for the moment you decide to awaken again. Ancient alchemists called this process the great work, the art of transforming base energy into gold, ignorance into illumination, shadow into light. But before transformation can begin, the poison must be faced and expelled. In upcoming moments, we will explore how to begin this sacred process, how to reverse the spiritual corrosion caused by alcohol, purify your energy field, and restore the divine architecture of your soul. But before we move into that, reflect for a moment. What do you seek when you drink? Comfort, courage, escape, or connection? What if all of those things already exist within you, waiting to be remembered, not poured from a bottle? In the next part, we will uncover the hidden spiritual laws that govern energy and how alcohol inverts them. We'll also explore why certain entities are drawn to the vibration of intoxication and how to protect yourself from them by restoring your energetic sovereignty. Because to truly reclaim your spirit, you must first understand who or what has been feeding on it. To truly understand how alcohol eats away at the spirit, we must look at the hidden architecture of energy that sustains human life. Every thought, emotion, and action generates a specific vibration, a signature frequency that either harmonizes with the divine current or resists it. The more aligned your frequency is with truth, love, and clarity, the stronger your connection to Source. But alcohol inverts this current. It drags the frequency downward, away from light, toward entropy. This is not just poetic symbolism. Mystics throughout history, from the Tibetan lamas to the Christian desert fathers, warned that intoxicants create holes in the aura. These are literal fractures in your energy field. Imagine your spirit as a glowing sphere of light surrounding the body. Every act of kindness, meditation, or gratitude strengthens it. Every act of anger, fear, or excess weakens it. Alcohol doesn't just create a small crack, it tears open the veil entirely. Those energetic holes attract what the Gnostics called mind parasites, and what shamans call hungry ghosts. They are not evil in the sense of horror stories. They are simply disembodied fragments of consciousness, entities that have lost their connection to Source and now survive by feeding on human emotion. When a person drinks, their energy becomes loose, chaotic, and delicious to these beings. Many ancient cultures describe this phenomenon. The Chinese Taoists spoke of the three corpses, invisible parasites that live within the human body and become active during intoxication, whispering destructive thoughts. The Native Americans, long before the arrival of European settlers, saw the destructive effect of firewater and called it the drink that steals the soul. Across continents, the message was the same. Alcohol weakens the spiritual fabric and opens the door to forces that drain vitality. Modern science, in its own way, confirms a piece of this puzzle. Studies show that chronic alcohol consumption reduces neural plasticity and disrupts neurotransmitters responsible for emotional stability. What the ancients described as spirit loss, neuroscience calls dopamine imbalance or cognitive disconnection, yet the result is the same, a human being cut off from joy, clarity, and purpose. The mystic Emanuel Swedenborg wrote that when a person becomes intoxicated, spirits of a lower nature draw near, and when the intoxication fades, they retreat, leaving the person empty and ashamed. Have you noticed that feeling, the heavy emptiness after a night of drinking? That's not just a hangover. It's the echo of those energies departing, taking with them a part of your light. Alcohol pretends to connect people, but it connects them through distortion. Two souls vibrating in confusion cannot truly meet. They collide. True connection is resonance, when two fields of light vibrate in harmony. That cannot happen under intoxication because the bridge of awareness is broken. Let's go deeper. Energy flows through the human body in specific channels, known in Eastern traditions as nadis or meridians. These channels are designed to carry prana, life force, from the higher centers down to the physical realm and back up again in a perfect loop. Alcohol blocks these currents. It clogs the energetic arteries of the soul. That's why people who drink frequently feel fatigue, anxiety, or emotional instability. Their life force isn't circulating, it's leaking. Now imagine millions of people leaking energy simultaneously. What happens to the collective field of humanity? The vibration of the planet lowers, compassion fades, confusion rises, people lose their sense of sacred purpose. And in that collective fog, systems of control thrive, political, social, and even spiritual. A population disconnected from its divine nature is easy to manipulate because it seeks salvation externally instead of within. This is why many esoteric schools considered sobriety not a moral choice, but a spiritual discipline. To abstain from alcohol was to preserve clarity of perception. The early initiates of Egypt's mystery schools fasted and purified their bodies before entering the temples of Thoth. The Pythagoreans avoided all intoxicants to maintain mathematical precision of mind. The yogis of India abstained to preserve prana for awakening the kundalini, the serpent of divine energy. All of them knew a polluted vessel cannot hold sacred fire. But there is something even more sinister to consider, and this is one of the greatest secrets hidden in plain sight. The modern alcohol industry, knowingly or not, acts as a ritual of inversion. Think about it. Gatherings where people drink together are ritual spaces. There is intention, there is repetition, there is emotion, all ingredients of magic. But this is black magic, not in the Hollywood sense, but in the energetic sense. An unconscious invocation of entropy. Every toast, every cheers, seals a collective pact of forgetfulness. People raise their glasses to life while slowly draining it from themselves. Does that sound dramatic? Look closely. Observe the faces at any party after several hours. The laughter becomes forced, the eyes lose their spark, and the energy turns heavy. The soul begins to withdraw, and what remains is the shell of the person, animated by desire and illusion. The spirit of the drink replaces the true spirit of the individual, and yet none of this is hopeless. Awareness itself begins to break the spell. Once you see the pattern, you can no longer be deceived by it. The act of recognizing alcohol's true nature is an act of liberation. The same energy that once enslaved you can become the catalyst for awakening, if you transmute it. In the next section, we will uncover exactly how to perform that transmutation, how to cleanse your energetic field, reclaim your lost fragments of soul, and rebuild the radiant vessel that connects you to the source. We'll explore ancient purification rites, modern spiritual practices, and the science behind rebalancing your energy after years of disconnection. Because the most powerful truth of all is this: the spirit that alcohol tries to eat cannot be destroyed, only forgotten, and remembering it is the beginning of freedom. There comes a moment in every seeker's path when the illusion loses its power. The same drink that once promised relief now tastes of ashes. The laughter around it sounds hollow. That is the call of the soul remembering itself. Alcohol may have numbed the connection for years, but the divine spark cannot be extinguished. The journey back begins with a single, conscious breath. Close your eyes and imagine a flame in the center of your chest. Faint, but steady. That flame is what ancient mystics called the divine atom, the indestructible point of light that connects you to Source. Each time you choose awareness over numbness, that flame grows. Each time you face pain without drowning it, you feed the light instead of the darkness. To reverse the spiritual corrosion caused by alcohol, the first step is purification. Every culture preserved a method for it. The Egyptians bathed in salt and sunlight. The Essenes fasted beside running water. The Native Americans used sweat lodges to burn away toxins of the body and of the soul. Modern science now confirms what they intuited. Sweat, breath, and silence reset the nervous system and restore coherence between brain and heart, the physical mirrors of spirit. Next comes reconnection. Meditation, prayer, breathwork, and time in nature repair the torn geometry of your energy field. When you breathe deeply and consciously, prana flows back into blocked channels, pushing out residues of stagnation. Gratitude and forgiveness vibrate at high frequencies that seal the holes in your aura. Speak forgiveness aloud, to yourself, to those you hurt, to those who hurt you. Each act of forgiveness retrieves a fragment of your light that had been trapped in guilt and shame. Then comes transmutation. The alchemist taught that every poison can become medicine when awareness enters it. You do not need to hate alcohol or fear it. You only need to see through it. Recognize that what you once sought in the bottle, courage, joy, connection, were reflections of your own essence. You can summon them any time through consciousness itself. The energy once invested in escape can now fuel creativity, compassion, and vision. Spiritual masters like Paramahansa Yogananda describe the body as God's living temple. To drink is to vandalize that temple. To heal is to restore it. The process is not about moral purity, but about vibrational alignment. When your body is clean and your mind clear, your frequency rises naturally. You begin to perceive synchronicities, intuition sharpens, and life responds as if guided by invisible grace. This is not fantasy. It is resonance. Yet, liberation demands honesty. You must face the emotions alcohol kept buried: grief, fear, loneliness, anger. These are not enemies. They are messengers. Sit with them in silence, breathe through them, and they dissolve into understanding. The energy once locked in suppression becomes strength. This is the sacred fire of transmutation, turning darkness into gold. As you awaken, you start to notice how the world around you still worships intoxication. But rather than judging others, become a beacon. Your sobriety is not rebellion, it is quiet revolution. When you stand in clarity among those lost in confusion, your vibration begins to shift theirs. Light doesn't argue with darkness, it simply shines. Consider the ripple effect. One awakened soul can elevate an entire circle of friends, a family, even a community. Energy is contagious. Every time you choose presence over escape, you send out a frequency of remembrance that travels farther than you can imagine. Perhaps that is why many teachers say that true healing of the planet begins with one purified heart. So now ask yourself, who would you be if your spirit were fully awake? What gifts would emerge if the fog lifted completely? The artist, the healer, the leader, the mystic. They are all waiting behind the veil that alcohol once lowered. In the end, this is not a story about guilt or prohibition. It is a story about sovereignty. Alcohol only wins when you forget who you are. The moment you remember, its power ends. The parasite cannot feed on light. Raise your hand, not a glass, to the life that is returning to you. Feel the pulse of your own divinity in your heartbeat. That rhythm is older than any addiction, stronger than any poison, and purer than any intoxication. It is the song of your eternal self, the part that never drowned, never faded, never forgot. And as you walk forward on this path of remembrance, let these words echo within you. You are not broken. You are awakening. The spirit that alcohol tried to devour is rising again, brighter, wiser, unshakable. Because in the end, the greatest high is not in a drink. It is in the full, sober presence of your own soul. Thanks for looking.